Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, my toxic sister-in-law demanded that I pay for her luxury family vacation, and when I refused, she ended up stealing my credit card. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. So I am a lawyer. Why is this important? Well, it's the sole reason that I've been able to live in luxury for the past couple years. It's also the reason lots of my family members decided to get into contact with me again after literal years of not speaking. For some background, I have 3 sisters and I'm the only brother and also the eldest. 2 of my sisters are my dad's, but the youngest is the baby my mom and stepdad had. My parents put most of their attention onto my sister, specifically the youngest, and all but forced me to help out around the house as if I were a third parent. They were not abusive or anything like that, but all of the pocket money would go to my sisters, birthday money to me from aunts and uncles would also go to them, nights out would have to be cancelled on the day because my parents needed an extra pair of hands to make dinner or something like that. It got tiring very quickly, so I became a bit of a handful once I got a bit older. I did not really respect them. I did not think any of it was fair, something I still stand to. To be honest, I won't get into it in this, but on my 18th birthday, my parents kicked me out. It was not because they thought that I was a troubled kid or anything, it was all because, "You're 18 now, we cannot keep buying you food and paying for the gas and electricity you use. And it's Christmas next week, we need money for presents for your sister." I asked what they expected me to do, where they thought I would live, how I would buy food, etc. They just kept repeating their same points and that I was an adult now and had to figure it out. I called them all names under the sun, cussing them and my sisters out, storming out of the house and not looking back. My phone blew up with angry messages from my parents, sisters and other distant relatives. Long story short, my parents had twisted the story to make it seem like I just cussed them out, broke some dishes and then left. They did not say they kicked me out, but I did not care. I will make this short, but after that, I had a very tough year. I was homeless and had never had a job. I managed to get into a homeless shelter and picked up some odd jobs here and there, but eventually I got the opportunity to apply to a law school and took it. I'd always done good in school, so I figured I had a good shot. I got a place there and also got some pretty good student finances. Flash forward 3 years and I graduate and get a job. So here I am today, another 3 years later with a gorgeous home, lots of spare change and a wonderful girlfriend whom I hope to make my wife, fingers crossed. In those 6 years, the only messages I got from any of my family were more badgering that I needed to apologize, and that was mostly at the start. The past 4 to 5 years have been radio silent. Now then, last month, the first text message I had gotten from my mother since the controversy. "Your sister is getting married. I know we had issues, but I think it's time we should all heal and come together. Come to the wedding. We are all sorry, son." I won't lie and say that I didn't turn into a crying baby after reading that. Everyone wants a mother who will love them. I figured I would go and replied back saying so. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I'm not sure I would have had the same thought process as OP here. Let me know in the comments if you would have had the same thoughts. Anyway, at this point I also wondered if the real reason for inviting me was for my money, but then I remembered there was no way they would know about my success, or so I thought. And for your information, the wedding was for the youngest who had just turned 19, which I think is too young, but anyway, the wedding was 1 week ago, so it was 3 weeks after the text message. It was awkward, but my family seemed friendly enough. My distant relatives were less so, but that is not shocking considering what version of the story they got. As the night was winding to an end, I soon found out why they had brought me here. "Zach, we did have something we wanted to speak to you about," my new brother-in-law said to me after we'd been drinking and talking for a little while. "Yeah, what is it?" I asked. "Well, my sister, your sister-in-law, is planning to go away for a few months. Your family have already said that they spoke with you about this, so really what I'm asking is, can we have the payment?" "Huh?" I asked, very confused. "For her trip," he continued. "My trip? You said you would cover it," said sister-in-law was sat near us and must have been listening in. Bear in mind, this is the first time I've met these people, and this was how righteous they were already acting. "Sorry, but I never said that. I was too stunned to know what was going on." "What?" She started going a bit red. My parents came over. "What's going on here?" they asked. "You said he would pay for my trip," my sister-in-law wailed. "Yes, we did. Come on, son, you can afford it," my stepdad spoke up. "Why is this the first time I'm hearing about all of this? Why on earth do you think that after 6 years of not speaking to me, I would just pay for my sister's husband's sister's holiday? This must be some sort of joke, right?" "Son, don't be so selfish. We all know you make good money," my mother said with a little laugh. How would you know that? Wait, is this why you invited me? Just to get money out of me? We saw on your employer's website that you work there and what your salary is. You can spare $70,000. $70,000? You thought I was gonna just hand over $70K after the way you treated me? I was standing at this point glaring at my parents. Brother, listen to me, my sister-in-law whined, pouting her lips. I am pregnant, okay, and I really need this trip for my mental health. This is insane, I half whispered to myself. I thought I must be dreaming. You're really not gonna pay up for it? If not for her, do it for us. My youngest sister spoke up, coming out of nowhere. For you? What have you ever done for me though? Other than sit idly by as mom and dad kicked me out at 18 with nothing to my name and only the clothes on my back. By this point the room was silent and I could see my relatives looking confused. You were not kicked out, you left, my aunt spoke up. No, I was kicked out. Tell them, mom. Well, okay, I guess technically he was kicked out. But look, we needed money for his sister's Christmas gifts and that's the only way we thought to save some. My mom replied, glancing around at everyone who was staring at her with anger on their faces. Everyone started talking at once, calling her a whole list of horrible names, and that is when my sister-in-law interrupted. Guys, this won't solve anything. I still need to get him to pay for my holiday. Everyone went silent again, wondering how on earth someone could have such audacity to think that was important right now, after what just spilled out. I did not say anything, turning and leaving. I went and sat outside, letting a few tears slip out. Some of my relatives came out, apologizing profusely, and some were even crying themselves. My sister-in-law came out next, sitting down beside me and handing me a beer. Sorry about all that, brother. I went too far. That was all she said before she hugged me a little too long and then left. After I had headed home, I figured out exactly why that hug was suspiciously long when I received a notification on my banking app that $70,000 had been taken out of my account in multiple separate transactions. I was stunned and suddenly started feeling around for my wallet. It was missing. My sister-in-law had stolen it. I raced back over to where the wedding was, knowing the festivities would still be going on. What have you done? I all but yelled in my sister-in-law's ear once I found her in the corner of the dance floor. She looked up at me with beady eyes and ran. I chased her and suddenly a horde of people were running after us to see what was going on. It's not fair, you have so much money. I'm pregnant, I deserve this holiday. My sister-in-law ranted once she stopped running and turned around to me. I'm gonna charge back all of those charges and I will report you, and don't you ever… I stopped mid-sentence by a ferocious slap across my face. After that she made another attempt to slap me, but someone stepped in and stopped her. Get off me, I'm pregnant! I called the cops and they were here in minutes. I said, this woman has stolen my wallet and taken $70,000 out of my bank account, and she has now assaulted me, I told the police. They took statements from those around us. Nobody was siding with her. I was ecstatic to take her to court. They also forced her to hand over my wallet, proof that she had taken it in the first place. Court happened to be some time later. As a lawyer, I represented myself. I knew it would be an easy win, but I wanted to give my family the humiliation. And of course I was right. I won the case and she ended up behind bars for stealing from me, identity theft, and then even assault. I could not charge back the funds because of this. I won $70,000 from her. She left that courthouse kicking and screaming, and my parents also had to be dragged out as they started cussing me out and saying how much of a terrible person I was. I spent a couple grand of that changing the names of her holiday, and then me and my wife went away and had a wonderful time. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Neighbor stole my electronics and buried them in his yard. He left a trail of coins and busted himself. If anyone here for some reason wants to have a career as a criminal, keep in mind that to do so you need to have some level of intelligence. I notice a trend with thieves where in order to be a successful thief you need to be smart to get away with it. But if you have that kind of intelligence, you know being a thief is a stupid idea. Good for us though, because dumb thieves mean that they tend to get caught more often than not, which is exactly what happened with my neighbor. I actually knew that he was a bit of a thief before he did something worth reporting and having an issue with. Also, side note, the guy lives right next to you is probably a stupid target to choose. Anyway, back to the neighbor and how I should have seen the signs earlier. He was known for checking to see if anyone threw things out or left them out by the curb, and before you start typing in the comments, I know that is not stealing really because it was stuff we were throwing out, but I should have seen it as a warning sign. Or he simply was a dedicated recycler, who knows. Anyway, he wanted to take anything he could get his hands on for free that he thought had any sort of value. I guess he learned that going through trash was not going to work because he moved on to bigger things. One night he got into my garage because I forgot to close it all the way. It faces the backyard and I live in the kind of neighborhood that you don't really need to worry about locking your doors. Don't get me wrong, we still totally do, I just messed up and did not close it all the way. Luckily, our garage is basically being used as storage for mostly useless things, so when he came in and looked for things to steal, he did not get anything important. Still, the cameras caught him and I thought I better talk to him. Me? Hey neighbor. Neighbor.
Oh hey, what's up?
Me? I noticed on my cameras that you went into my garage and took a few things. He does not even bat an eye. Neighbor.
Right, I meant to talk to you about that. I was so drunk that night and I thought I was in my own garage. It was not until later I realized what I did. I was just busy.
I did not buy his story about being drunk, but I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt this once. He gives the stuff back and I don't feel like I need to pursue things any further. Like they always say though, hindsight is 20/20 and my foresight was so bad with this situation, I was basically blind. The funny thing was that I even mentioned to him I had cameras, but he did not do anything to even mask his appearance with what he did next. Anyway, I was out with the wife for the night celebrating her birthday, nice dinner, flowers, the whole thing. When we get back and go inside, we see our door had a picklock sticking out of it and inside all of our electronics were missing. My wife was terrified and I was looking to see exactly what was stolen, and basically anything that could be plugged in that looked like a pawn shop might take it for a bit of money was gone. The biggest hit to me though is that my coin collection was gone. The collection of coins actually just looked a lot more valuable than it was, which was why it was probably stolen. Instead of it being rare coins worth millions, it was just ones that I thought looked neat or came from places that I went on vacation to. Me and my wife are sentimental like that, and the coins are nice reminders that don't take up too much space. I finally called the police and they came over to check everything out. I couldn't check the cameras because my laptop was stolen, so all they could do was make a list of everything that was taken and see what they could do. The next day, when I was passing the neighbor's property, I saw some coins lying in the dirt. This was strange to me because they were foreign coins from a place I went on vacation to a few years back. I could see more going deeper into his yard, but I did not want to trespass, especially if the things were mine. Meanwhile, the camera footage was given to the police and they called me down to see if I could ID the thief. It was 100% the neighbor and they were able to get a warrant to look in his house and around his property for my things. Inside of his house they only found a few things and he claimed it was all that he had. I pointed out though the trail of coins to the police and they found it odd as well. Where the coin trail ended, you could just barely make out the dirt looking like it had been dug up recently. It was a really good job and honestly, without the trail of coins it would have gone unnoticed. They dug it up and lo and behold, the rest of my electronics were there. He got arrested and it was a pretty open and shut case because the police caught him red-handed. Turns out this is not even the first time he got arrested for theft. I just find it hilarious though that he basically got himself caught and could have gotten away with it if he had a better plan. He knew there were cameras and I would know his face, but he broke in without a mask or anything. He did a great job burying the items but missed the obvious trail of coins that led me and the police right to my things. He clearly does not have the aptitude for being a thief. Obviously this time I did not let it go and pressed charges because I just don't want to deal with a guy living next to me who wants to steal my stuff. My biggest worry would be him getting smarter and better at it before robbing someone else. Mainly though, I'm just happy that the whole thing ended without anybody getting hurt or none of our things being lost. We got them back in a bit dirtier of a condition than we lost them, but everything luckily worked out. Neighbor was also of the impression that since he got caught and I got my stuff back, that nullified him getting arrested or getting jail time. That obviously did not work, and from what I understand, he got away with a fine and some community service last time, but this time they gave him like a year in jail. Clearly, he won't be there for long, but I hope for his sake he doesn't try to steal things in there. When he gets out, I will make sure he stays away from me and my house. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, have you ever had any neighbors that stole something from you? And if so, have you caught them? Let us know in the comments. And yeah, if this story teaches us anything, then if you want to be a criminal, you need to be a little bit smarter than the idiot in this story. The next one is titled Stupid Woman Bests Water Department Workers. My ex-husband and I bought our home from his parents. They had the house built in the 50s. For years, father-in-law wanted to install a shut-off valve in the utility room to, you know, shut off the water to the whole house to do some repairs. Plumber told him it would cost a large amount of money because they could not fit the shutoff from the city water main at the street, the so-called buffalo box, aka water main shutoff valve. Since the buffalo box was MIA, they would have to freeze the pipes to stop the water before installing the shutoff valve. It was an expensive process to freeze the pipes, so it never got done. When we bought the house, we decided to get the shut-off valve installed. We called the water department and they sent 2 workers to shut off the water. When they arrived, I explained the problem. They went out to the front yard, walked around a bit and told me there was nothing they could do for me. According to the 2 workers, it was my problem that they could not find the buffalo box and that I should call a plumber to dig up my front yard, sidewalk and city easement to find my buffalo box. Well, I have a background in residential real estate construction and I was familiar with how water mains and buffalo boxes are installed, and I told them it was the city's issue as they were responsible for the buffalo box and not the homeowners. According to these guys, as a woman, I did not know what I was talking about and they left. They were incredibly rude about it, but peons like these think they can get away with being rude to an ignorant woman like me. Fast forward to a year or so later, I get a call from the city manager asking why I had not paid my water bill for over a year. I told him that I wanted to pay my water bill, but I wanted them to first turn off my water. He was a bit taken aback that I wanted them to turn off the water. So I explained what the city workers told me about locating the buffalo box and their attitude about women not understanding those types of things. I also told him that if the city could not turn off my water, I would be happy to have free water forever because I would never pay another bill. We had a nice long chat about the situation and he said that he would resolve my concerns. The next day, these same 2 guys show up at my house with some digging equipment and spent the whole day digging up the easement and the sidewalk. Their attitudes were rather somber because the city manager told me he was going to give them a talking to about how they mishandled the situation, and I even got an apology. They found the buffalo box under the city-owned sidewalk. They fixed the buffalo box so it would be accessible and came the next day to fix the sidewalk. They asked if I wanted the water turned off. I declined and I told them I would have my plumber take care of it when he had him install the interior shut-off valve. And then I paid the water bill. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, I am really not a fan of all these stereotypes about people working in certain jobs, whether it is women working as a plumber or even guys working in kindergarten or something. I think it is really time to abandon these stereotypes. Anyway, if you enjoy my daily stories, then I would really appreciate it if you could also post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, "So, you wanna snoop in your daughter's texts?" I am married to a wonderful woman. She is smart, funny, and very kind. Her mother is generally very nice and tends to have a great attitude and be very enjoyable. A bit of a prude, but generally enjoyable. However, she can be a bit of a major snoop. If my wife leaves her phone sitting around, she will just pick it up and start going through it. My wife kind of laughed this off as a remnant of her mom being controlling when she was a kid. I'm not a fan of this because my wife and I will sometimes text about things that simply don't involve her mother, and I don't feel are her business at all. So, over Christmas, I saw my wife set her phone down on the kitchen counter and I had a brilliant idea. Her mom was still in the kitchen and I sent my wife the most sexually depraved text about all the things I was going to do when everyone left. Honestly, most of them are things we have not even done, but I had to make it extra scarring. I sent this text from the bathroom and maybe it was my imagination, but I could swear I could hear an audible shortly after her phone went off. When I went out, her mother absolutely would not look me in the eye and then not so discreetly asked her daughter to come talk to her in the other room. When my wife came back into the living room, I thought she had been crying. However, upon closer inspection, she was laughing. Her mother had questioned her about me sexually abusing her and if I always talk down to her like that. My wife had told her kindly that what we do is between us and us only, which was probably the best gift this Christmas. The next one is titled, "Never piss off the photographer. Never." I'm not a professional photographer, but friends and family ask me to take photos for them all the time. I love portrait photography and I'm happy to do the favor, but sometimes people are really awful and annoying and then it really grates that I'm spending my evening and weekend shooting and then processing photos for free. A few years ago, I had a really bad client. A colleague asked me to do a family shoot on Mother's Day. I knew I would have the morning to play with before going to see my own mom, so I accepted. It was going to be at a winery in the country and my colleague offered to pay for me to join them for brunch. Bonus. We carpooled and it was not until we got there that I realized that it was not just going to be my colleague, her husband and her kids, it was my colleague's husband's entire family. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, parents and even both grandmas. 27 people. I'm immediately panicking about how long it is going to take to do this shoot and mention to my colleague C and her husband CH that I have to leave in 3 hours to get back for my family's Mother's Day. CH says it will be fine. I don't really have a choice as we carpooled, so I try and relax and have fun. The brunch goes on forever and when we are finished we only have an hour for photos. I figure that should be fine if cutting it close and I ask for CH's help in keeping his family organized and moving. I plan out the normal shots with CH, everyone together, family groups, kids, and then CH starts asking for couple shots. Then siblings, and I text my family and let them know I will be a little late but hoping it won't be too bad because CH will keep people moving. An hour and a half later and everyone is having a bad time. The kids are crying, it is taking forever to get any shots at all. Why? Because CH is yelling at people, hurling commands and orders, barking, foaming at the mouth. It is incredibly awful. The winery people come over a few times and ask us to keep it down. CH yells at them too. I am praying that they kick us out. I try telling CH that I have to leave, that we can try again for photos another time. The family tries to leave as well. We are stopped. No, we must endure. When he tells his son that he's going to knock the snot out of him if he doesn't stop crying, something snaps in me. I stop trying to cheer people up, I get fun photos, happy smiles, I just take the photos we need to, so we can all just GTFO. When I eventually get home, I do what I can with these miserable photos. I combine different frames to get group shots where everyone looks happy. Where that doesn't work, I touch up facial expressions so people look less harried. I steal bits from candid shots earlier in the day. These are impossible masterpieces when I am through with them. I spend hours and hours making sure these pictures are going to hang in living rooms forever. Then I go through every single photo featuring CH, absolutely everyone, and just enough to be slightly noticeable, just enough to look weird and awkward, I enlarge his head. And that is ripe stars, what you would call photographer's petty revenge. And the last one is titled, Supervisors tried to make me look bad, so I made them look worse. I am an attorney and used to work at a state government office where I had 2 supervisors, one for my practice group and one for my section, who from the very beginning decided to make it their business to treat me like crap. Section chief had a habit of sitting on client questions for days and then assigning them to me. Then, when the client would inevitably ask why it was taking so long to do their stuff, she would respond only that I was the one working on that stuff, making it look like the delay was my fault. Similarly, group supervisor's favorite was to try to get me in trouble with both clients and higher-ups in our office for not doing things fast enough, despite the fact that she would procrastinate for weeks on reviewing/signing off on work I actually did very fast indeed. But what those hoes beats did not know was that A, I was saving all the emails they sent me that would include information like dates they assigned me work, etc. And B, one of the aforementioned higher-ups was my former boss during an externship in law school, so he liked me and knew I was not lazy or an idiot. So one day, group supervisor assigned me a question from our client's agency involving a citizen's public records request, and I prepared a draft response within an hour and sent it back to her. I needed her to sign off on it before I advised the client. But despite my getting a read receipt for my email, she did not respond for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. And yes, in response to a question raised in the comments, I had a policy of following up with people when I didn't get timely responses, but had previously been told by this supervisor that she did not need reminding about my emails, so I stopped doing that with her. The client was supposed to answer the records request within a tight deadline under the law and eventually emailed group supervisor to ask where the hell their answer was. Group supervisor finally woke up and forwarded her original email assigning me the work to section chief to complain that I didn't do it in good time. And then section chief forwarded that to the client and told them it was my fault it was not done yet. So I, having finally had enough, rubbed my little hands together in delight and proceeded to do the following. I did reply all to section chief's email to client, attaching my email to group supervisor containing the draft response. I innocently wrote, "Apologies for the inconvenience, Mr. Client. Our office rule is to wait for supervisory sign-off before providing advice, but I've nevertheless attached draft advice prepared on date. Group supervisor and section chief, do you agree with this advice? May client act upon it? Number 2, forward that response to former boss and very politely ask him, in instances where there is a tight time frame to respond to a client question, is it okay to provide the client with provisional draft advice like this within the deadline, but let them know a supervisor needs a little more time to do their review and sign off?" The client ended up praising me for my efforts to get a response to him in a timely fashion, and former boss thanked me for my question but said it should never be an issue in the first place, and then sent out an office-wide notice to remind supervisors that they must provide necessary sign-offs on advice within deadlines and must never blame those under them for delays in front of clients because that affects the image of the whole office. He attached the emails in my matter as an example of what supervisors should not do, so literally everyone saw what incompetent ass clowns they were. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.